amigos de PortalGeek? Nos encontramos aquí con Louis Trioupin, gerente de producto para Clancy The Division 2, el nuevo juego que lanza por estos días Ubisoft. Y bueno, primero que todo, bienvenido a Colombia.
Muchas gracias.
Bueno, un gusto tenerte aquí con nosotros y cuéntanos un poco cómo fue ese proceso de desarrollo del juego.
Well, we started work on The Division 2 a little time after The Division 1 released. And one of the key elements that we had in mind when working on the game, actually there can be three of them down the road. First is all the research that was done to make sure that we are creating the most believable recreation of Washington DC, because that's where the game is taking place.
Okay,
but
yeah.
7 months later, after the event. And the second topic is making sure that we were focused on making endgame meaningful, because a lot of the community feedback following the release of The Division 1 was making sure that there was enough content on day one bringing you to that endgame part. So we're adding a twist, a story twist, a new faction, basically a new progression system that is named specializations that allow you to improve your character even more.
Okay.
And then the last topic was to make sure that we're providing a host of content not just for day one, but also for a full year entirely for free. So I can say that it was a process that lasted 3 years roughly, but very intense.
¿Cuáles son esas novedades? Bueno, además de lo que ya nos contaste, ¿qué otras novedades podemos encontrar que hacen que pues, la historia tenga algo especial, digamos, para el jugador en esta ocasión?
So in The Division 2, it's its own encapsulated story. Of course, it shares the basis of the story as Division 1, with the green poison being released in New York, and it's spread everywhere. And the world is reacting to that. Washington DC has been hit, and it's reacting to that. And this is where The Division 2 picks up and has its own story to tell, because you're playing a new agent that is actually called to Washington DC after a mysterious SOS call.
Un nuevo personaje que...
Sí.
Okay.
It's a totally new character that actually you get to progress, because that was important for us to have that sentiment, that feeling of progression
Sí, esa
of the
sensación de que
character.
vas creciendo en la historia, en el personaje y...
Absolutamente. Down the road, the story is unique also in the fact that you actually see the impact of your actions in the world surrounding you. There are several factions. There is 3 enemy factions. There is the civilians. There is the SHD, which is the Division HQ, and all have their own needs. In this world that you're entering, that is already working and fighting against each other. And you, as an agent, you'll have to help the civilians to stay on top, to make sure that society doesn't crumble entirely and weaken the enemy factions.
Ok. Bueno, y cuéntanos un poco sobre ese componente multijugador que es tan importante en el juego.
So, literally, you could say that the entire game is a multiplayer game, because you can do it alone or with four other players.
Sí, está presente todo el tiempo.
Exactamente. What it means is that the game adapts to how many players there is in your team, and balances the difficulty of the missions, etc. to it. But on top of that, there is also more PvP, so player versus player oriented content, not just cooperative content. For example, the Dark Zone, which is a unique area, a unique mode, let's call it like that, from The Division, that we have taken a very well formula and improved it in The Division 2. There are now 3 different dark zones, and actually we reworked a little bit the rogue system, so that you can engage in rogue not only by shooting at other players, but also by stealing content and not necessarily killing other players. So it's more fair, more accessible, but it's definitely at the heart of what the Division 2 is.
Ok. Cuéntanos de pronto alguna anécdota, algo que haya pasado interesante durante el proceso de desarrollo que haya aportado al juego de pronto.
I think there is a bit like two different stories that I can tell. One is really as part of the development of the game. Actually, we had teams that literally traveled to Washington, D.C. to live there for a week, roughly, and to meet with specialists, to people that are actually creating the emergency plans for the city of Washington, D.C. In order to make that actually realistic in the game itself. So that's already something pretty crazy, that you have a whole team of researchers actually going into a place, taking pictures, doing interviews with those specialists, and then being able, thanks to the talented team at Massive, to bring them for real in the game, as you'll see. And then it's one more personal, maybe I would say, which is the moment of E3. So the moment where we actually reveal the game for everyone for the first time. And it's really something powerful, where you've been working for a few months on, okay, how are we going to present this? How is the first contact with the community is going to be? Because of that, it was really something special to see how people reacted to the trailers, to the first gameplay, to the first hands-on, and ever since making sure that we take into account those comments, those feedback, especially, for example, in the open beta and closed beta.
Bueno, vemos que el juego en esta ocasión viene en español latino. Cuéntanos un poco sobre pues, ese beneficio para todos los latinoamericanos y para el público habla hispana.
Well, it was very important for us, to, as we mentioned before, to keep listening to what the community wants. And one of those wishes, a big one for Latin America, was to make sure that the game was fully translated, just like the Division 1 down the road. So we've used that legacy to make sure that the same level of quality and immersion was able to be given for the Division 2.
Ok, excelente. Y ¿qué contenido podemos esperar en el juego a futuro?
So we're preparing a full 3 year of content for everyone to enjoy, and there's going to be something for everyone really down the road, be it more stories, so more main missions that expand the story of the Division 2 after it finishes in the main game, more locations to explore, more ways to experience the game, different types of modes, all of that. Down the road, what we want to make sure is, first, that whatever you like in the experience of the Division, you get something more to play, more of what you want. And secondly, that we're never splitting the community during that year. We make sure that everyone will be able to join into the fun down the road.
Ok, bueno, eso es muy importante, ir involucrando a la comunidad en el futuro del juego. Bueno, Luis, muchas gracias por este tiempo y ha sido un gusto en serio conversar contigo. Y bueno, ya saben, amigos de PortalGeek, el juego ya está disponible en el mercado, así que a jugar The Division 2.
See you soon in DC.
We are The Division, and history will remember us.